I work in the Department of Interior Architecture at Eastern Mediterranean University. And today we are going to have a seminar entitled Ethics and Architecture, organized by Eastern Mediterranean University, Faculty of Architecture, with valuable architect and academician Professor Dr. Yonca Hürol. Let me first start to give a brief bio about her. She is a good corridor mate, an inspirational friend who teach me to think outside the box. She has worked in the Department of Architecture at Eastern Mediterranean University since 1998. Her field of research include the tectonic of structural system, tectonics, ethics in architecture, and architectural research. She worked for the Ethics Council of Faculty of Architecture, and currently she is in the Ethics Council of Eastern Mediterranean University. She is also writing a book entitled The Tectonic of Structural System, an Architectural Approach, which was published by Rodrigo Tyler and Francis in 2016. Before starting our seminar, this will be something different. I have a question for both Yonca Hoca and our friend who is with us today. I would like you to think about this question and listen the seminar accordingly. But first, I would like to change my background setting. Yes, I think it's okay. And the question is, you are driving with your car on a wild stormy night, and you are passing in front of a bus stop. And at the bus stop, there is three people waiting. One is an old lady, and who is going to die, and a friend of yours, very old friend of yours, who saved your life before, and the man or a woman who have been you dreaming of. And the question is, which one would you choose to affair to ride, knowing that there could be only one passenger in your car? And this is a moral ethical dilemma which we are always facing our daily life, in our professional life, in architecture as well. In architecture, it came in all stage, in a design process, in a presentation process, in a construction process, in a renovation process, when you design a new modern building as well. And I would like you to think before you give answer, because I will get the answer after the presentation of Yonca Hoca's. But your answer could be, could you pick up the old lady because she's going to die, and thus you should save her first? Or you could take the old friend because he once saved your life, and this will be the perfect chance to pay him back. Or if you do both of this case, you're losing something. However, you may not able to find your perfect dream lover. So my question is this for everyone and for Yonca Hoca, and I'm giving two words to dearest Yonca Hoca. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Seyit, for a very nice introduction. And of course, Seyit's introduction reminds us the importance of choice in our lives. So I will now start my seminar. I will share a PowerPoint from OneDrive. It will open in a minute. Please, it will take a very short time. It's nearly to be opened. Give me a minute, please. It's extraordinarily slow. Why is it like that? I don't know. Yes. Yes, it's nearly to come. I don't know why it is so slow. In my classes, it was opening much faster.
Give it a few seconds.
Do you know why it is so slow? This is very unusual for my presentations. maybe there is something in internet. Still not coming. I didn't understand. I'm very sorry for this, but it's not somehow the PowerPoint is not opening from OneDrive. So maybe I should cancel it and open it from screen and share the screen. I'm sorry.
Yes, it's better to open and share it via screen.
Yeah, actually, if it is in internet, it was taking less energy as far as I know. Yeah, so if I come back and share the screen now.
Yonca, if you send your presentation to Seyit Hoca or...
Yes.
No, it's unusual. I'm trying to share the screen now. I think this will work. In all my classes, it was working. I think you can see it now.
Yes, Hoca, it's fine.
So you can see it now. Yeah, thank you. I'm very sorry for this delay. Yeah, as Seyit nicely presented, my subject is architecture and ethics. I made a similar presentation for Turkish Chamber of Architects Ankara section approximately 6 months ago. And then I wanted to make a similar presentation in English as well for our non-Turkish speaking students and friends. So this will be that presentation. So first of all, I must say that in my presentation, I will take the subject of ethics in a broad sense, because somehow I wanted to give a holistic picture about how I understand ethics in architecture. So that first we are going to talk about some general issues, including some historical issues as well, especially in ancient Greece. And then we are going to talk about some theories of ethics and how do they relate to ethics in architecture. And then we are going to start with that knowledge, we are going to start focusing on some real life problems in architecture. But through the whole presentation, I will try to address architecture as well. Now, first of all, we have to admit something before we start, and it's about the difference of values between traditions and modern world. And we should also admit that all traditions have similar values. They had similar values in the past. It's a bit strange now, but they had similar values in the past. And our modern world is very, very young. It is still going to develop. We should give a chance for it to develop. I said this because traditions in the past protected the world in a better way than the modern approach. Certainly, we know that nature was protected better during the traditional times, but this was because of an authoritarian approach, and this was because of the lack of individual rights in those days. So we should admit the advantages and disadvantages together. And then in the modern world, individuality and their rights for freedom gained more importance. And at this point, we should start talking about ethics, because if we talk about the psychological inclination towards freedom of people, and if we put ethics in front of it, we understand that how it becomes a very critical issue in the modern world. And it is acknowledged in the modern world, ethics, and how it is accepted in the modern world, we have to understand this very well. And we should also understand how ethics work in the modern world, especially how the values work in the modern world, because in the modern world, even the religions have become tolerant. Not like in the past, they are much more tolerant, they are also changing. But the way values work in the modern world is based on individuals having almost different values. And there's a struggle between individuals to fight for their values. And so it becomes very confusing for, especially when I was young, I was very confused because I would say, is that true or that true? But suddenly you see that true in another place, this true in another place. It's a result of a struggle. Whoever somehow makes the others convinced, suddenly those values can be dominating in different environments. So this is the very, let's say, sloppy floor that we are walking on in our modern world. Now, if this is the situation in the past, in the traditional world, it was easy because there were very clear rights and wrongs, good and bad, but now it's not like that. So especially forget about how to deal with others. Explaining what to do to yourself is also very difficult because you have to draw a line between being very rigid and ethical and being too much tolerant, and it even ignores the ethics. So where can I put the line? It's a very important question. And in architecture, this is especially very important because we see, I am following the sites of chambers of architects in Turkey, and I am following up newspapers, what's going on in the cities and also in historical sites, in natural sites, and also where to build and where not to build. There is a lot of things going on, and there is a lot of wrong decisions taken by people. Now, before going further, I would like to see how this question of putting the line was answered in ancient Greece with the help of an example, because it's not that easy now. It's not, I don't mean that in ancient Greece it was easy. It is very interesting, but in our times it will be more difficult when we go into the theories. We shall see. If you have read Homer's Iliad, the Trojan War, there the most important figure to remember is the love between beautiful Helen and Paris. And this causes a war, and then Paris dies, and Helen goes back to her husband, the king, I think. And then while reading this, I found out that she was accepted back. Nobody questioned, what did you do? You left your husband, you went with your lover, and you caused a big war. Many people died. Nobody asked these things to her. And I said, oh my God, this is different culture. And then later, when I was reading the reference under the slide, Dreyfus and Kelly, I found out that there is an explanation of this. There's a very strong explanation behind this, because in ancient Greece, they found it ethical if a person follows a god calling them, if they understand that that god will stay with them for a long time. So for Helen, this was true. Aphrodite called her, and Helen understood that Aphrodite will stay with her for a long time. So she went, and this was appreciated by people. So this is an interesting point to put that line of how tolerant can we be. Of course, this can be valid for other gods as well in ancient Greek time. It can be valid for Ares, it can be valid for Zeus, Hera, or whatever. So this was the way they were looking at the problem in another way. But nowadays, in our lives, we have the extremes. Rather than putting a line, we are talking about extreme conservatism or freedom, and this is causing a lot of trouble for all of us. Now, I want to also remind a few concepts from ancient Greece, and I will start relating to architecture a little bit more from now on. First, we should talk about these four concepts: logos, ethos, pathos, kairos. I won't describe all of them, but ethos is the one that we are interested in. And ethos is a combination of the calculative mind plus the emotions. So it is about rational intelligence. So you have to combine the feelings, and still you have to be able to think rationally in it. So that's the ethos concept in ancient Greece, which works on ethics. So ethics is also something like that. It doesn't exclude feelings, it doesn't exclude mind. So we should also say that in the past, ethics, politics, aesthetics, metaphysics, epistemology, all branches of philosophy were related to each other. But in our world, we separated our professions and they don't address each other. So that's a difference from our world. And also our profession, architecture, is also separate from other professions, even from the professions in the same building team. Now, in ancient Greece, again, also, there is a god of fire and crafts, Hephaistos, which relates to architecture as well. And this god was a kind of perfectionist in his skills. So that was very parallel to the understanding of ethics of duty at that time. And we shall still see the effect of that type of approach in our world. And the other important name in the past, still relating also to architecture, Prometheus, is a titan of ancient Greek times, and it defines, still in the philosophy also, he is used to define humans' relationship with rules. And this also, in theories of tectonics, this puts light on how we should develop an approach towards rules in architecture. So in the old days, if you remember, these type of things, ethics or anything, those type of things were taught to younger people through literature, actually. So people were reading these literature works, and they were thinking about them and developing themselves. So we can still make use of them. And now I'm now going into the more modern world, and I want to talk about some common values. You know all these things, but I want to put a different light on them through the ethics theories. Now, first of all, we should understand that there are universal and local values, and the universal values are above the local values. So then we can continue with the common values, which are being inclusive, feeling empathy towards others. When I say others, I don't mean only humans, I mean animals, all living world, and whatever. And not to lie, not to lie. So now this is interesting because we all know it is not good not to lie, but in philosophical lectures, it is told that even if it is a even if it is a matter of life and death, you shouldn't lie. For example, I put this photo here of the SS soldiers searching for people's homes to find Jewish people at that time in the Second World War. In the philosophy lectures, people say that even these SS soldiers ask you if there is a Jewish person in your home, and if there is really, you shouldn't lie. You may say, come and look, but you shouldn't say, no, there isn't anybody, because it will be a lie. And this protects you, actually, because later if they find that person, they will also take you with that because you lied. So honesty. We are going to see later that honesty is the base of many ethics theories. And being truthful, being aware of reality and truth is important. And being too much egoist and selfish is another problem, which has to be controlled really by everybody. So these are all common issues, and this will we are going to see very soon that this issue touches ethics and architecture in a very heavy way, because the selfish attitudes try to take everything and try to ignore all the rules. We are going to see some examples. And consistency is also shown as a common value. But at the end of my presentation, you will see that this is quite difficult in the modern world, because we are living in a multicultural world now, and we are changing our places as well, so that we may not be that consistent, and being too consistent might not be ethical as well. So judgment is getting more and more difficult in the modern world. So I put this slide about Martin Heidegger because we are going to see that, especially about the calculative and very selfish attitudes, to explain those attitudes, Martin Heidegger's theories made a big impact on all professions almost. I put it here, but later we are going to talk further about his theories. Now, I want to go into another phase of my presentation, which is about the ethics theories and how do they relate to architecture, one by one. But later we are going to see that we cannot use them one by one. We have to consider them all. So first, we shall see Aristoteles' virtue ethics. We shall touch David Hume, very short. And then we shall talk very short. These are all very short, actually, but David Hume will be a bit more short. Immanuel Kant's deontological or duty ethics. We are going to talk a little bit about that. And then Utilitarianism of John Stuart Mill, and Rawls' contract ethics. We are going to touch them and try to address architecture through their theories. If we talk about the virtue ethics, we should first understand that character of the person is very important for Aristoteles. But what I mean here as the character in the ancient Greek times, it is which god is calling you. So to which god you go mostly, or to which gods you are more connected to. So it's somehow, it's related, it's not within yourself that much, so it is somehow something is passing through you. So the character, although it means almost the same thing, but the nature of it is a bit different, as if your character is outside yourself somehow. It's very interesting. And then for Aristoteles, you should choose your profession according to your character. Then you can reach perfection, and that's very important. You have to continuously improve your skills, and this is the main issue of relating to maybe this is the main issue relating to professions. So your drawings should be perfect, the way you run your office should be perfect, on the construction site what you do should be perfect, and you should be continuously improving yourself, your abilities. And it's interesting that Aristoteles was giving the priority to the skilled people. So here I can give an example of a flute. So I will give some examples like this during this presentation. We have a flute, like this is like Said's question. You know, we have a flute, and there are two people who asks for that flute. One is a very old man, which is a flute virtuose, and then the other one is a young little boy, and he wants to learn how to play flute. Which one will you give the flute? So Aristoteles gives it to the old man who knows how to play. So the priority is given to the skilled people in this approach. Now I will say a few words about David Hume, and then I will shift into Immanuel Kant's philosophy, because they are related. According to David Hume, ethical behavior is valuable if the person does that willingly. Otherwise, it's not valuable. So if I do something thinking that, oh, everybody will think something wrong, so I should behave very carefully, or if I say that I don't like it, but I have to be good, so I should do this. So these are all not valuable according to Hume. So you should like what is good according to him. Now, Immanuel Kant do not think like that. Immanuel Kant does not think like that. He says that in our societies, in our families, we are very bad. The world is in a very bad condition. There are wars going on, families are separating, and we are not giving proper education to people. So we cannot expect them to like what is good. So if we do that, then everybody is unethical. So we have to accept if they obey the rules, whether they like or not. So this is his point. And this will affect also us, because this highlights the importance of rules. And through this approach, we can see that designing a building on a forbidden place, according to Immanuel Kant, is not ethical. We have to follow the rules of drawing, regulations, building codes, standards, whether we like them or not. We can criticize, of course, that's not a problem, because Immanuel Kant also highlighted the importance of responsibility, and he is the pioneer of the ideas of responsibility in science as well. So we can be critical, but still, if it is a rule and if there's a social agreement, we have to follow that, whether we like it or not. And the rules of collaboration can be thought together with this. The copyright, rules about copyright, these are all very important for Kant's philosophy. And there's another dimension of Immanuel Kant's philosophy. It is about the kindness of attitude. So you shouldn't be very rough or very cruel towards others, according to Immanuel Kant. And he gives a very interesting, people give a very interesting example to explain this situation. You can imagine a railroad, at the end of the railroad, this is again like Said's question, at the end of the railroad, there are children playing, and there's a bridge over the railroad, and the train is coming, and on the bridge there's a big man sitting, big old man sitting. So they ask, would you push that man down in front of the train to stop the train and save the children? So many people say no to this. Many people say no, they won't do this. But a very similar thing, a similar question, there's a very similar question, ends up with the same results, but still people say yes to that. What is that? We have the rail, we have a separation of the rail, and there is a control mechanism there. At one end, there is the old big man. At the other end of the rail, we have children, so that they ask, would you change the track of the train? Many people say yes, because there is no touch involved there. You are not pushing the man, you are not killing him, you are just changing the track. So this is, you see, the kindness of attitude suddenly becomes very important. And again, we can see the reflection of this on building on the forbidden side, because it will be a kind of cruel action that many people do not accept. So you are putting yourself into a not nice position. And Immanuel Kant's philosophy also protects the individual. That's another dimension of his ethics. And there is an hospital example there. Again, like Said's examples, we have a hospital. There are 5 people in the hospital. They are going to die, and one needs a stomach, one needs a kidney, the other needs a heart, the other needs a brain, whatever. 5 of them need different organs, and suddenly a totally healthy person comes in. Should we cut him and give his organs to 5 people? We shall kill one, but save 5. So Kant says that no, we cannot do something like that. There are individual rights. And we shall see in a minute there is an opposite approach which will accept killing that person and give his or her organs to other 5. So you should see these are the ethical approaches change amongst themselves, and everybody has different tendencies. So let's go through. Now we are going to talk about utilitarianism. Here, the main issue is not the individuals. The main issue is to protect the majority against minorities. So here, in both the train example and the hospital example, we know the result, because if we are going to protect the majority, whatever is the situation, the old man should be pushed down to protect the children. And in the hospital, we can cut that one person to save other 5. So this is another approach which protects society, actually, but in the price of minorities. But we are going to see very soon that there is another theory explaining these altogether. For example, at the end of my presentation, we are going to see the Sulukule example, in which one district of Istanbul was destroyed for the benefit of majority, to have a more aesthetic site, to build something more aesthetical there to represent the city. But it fits with this approach. There is nothing against it in this approach, but according to Kant, that is wrong. Now we shall talk about contract ethics. This is about social agreements. And this is about how to make decisions, especially when you are going to vote in political elections. But I thought that this type of thinking might help a lot while giving some very critical decisions about our projects as well. So you can apply this theory to your decision-making processes, especially the very, very critical decisions, which might harm some people. So the first thing, Hürol says that you have to forget who you are. You shouldn't vote for your benefits. You cannot say that, if I vote for this politician, he will give me a job. So that's very, he says this is something else. This is not a social approach. So you have to look at it from the social agreement point of view. And you have to imagine the ones in the worst situation. And you have to think all of the possibilities to see how those possibilities will impact those weakest people. And you should ask, if I vote for this person or party, let's say, and if this weak group will be damaged, can they recover in long term or not? So if the answer of this question is no, if the harmed groups cannot recover in long term, then you shouldn't vote for them, for that possibility. So this is the way, what he suggests. So in architecture also, while giving some very critical decisions, for example, let's say something to give harm to the city and which will be very difficult to recover in the future, or some group of people, if you are giving a decision to give harm to a group of people and it's very difficult to recover, then you shouldn't give those decisions. Now I will come to the issue of professional ethics. And there are some sources here. Durkheim worked on this. And we have here, of course, we have to at this point first remember that every profession, since we are separated now, every profession has a different value system and they may conflict with each other. There is no problem in this. So don't think that some other professions do not have ethics and only your profession has ethics. They have different ethics. They have different value systems. You have to listen to them. You have to understand each other and then decide together. Because every profession has a kind of spontaneous ideology and this affects our value system and this needs some negotiations. And we have here on this page, you can see some codes of conduct prepared by various chambers of architects. And they are all based on the main concept is honesty. It's not, actually, it's a very, these are very broad texts. It doesn't say that don't do this, do that. It's not something like that. It just gives a feeling about what is ethical for the profession. And the main thing is behaving honest, and the judge is yourself. So there are also honor boards of chambers of architects, but in very difficult situations, if there is some trouble in the politics in the country, those honor boards do not work because they are scared, they are frightened from the giving some political decisions. Here about these codes of conduct, Hüseyin Sadri makes a very interesting criticism to the codes of conduct. I didn't want to pass this issue before telling this. And this is about, he says that nowadays we are in collaboration with different professions and the codes of conduct do not help too much about this collaboration. And the other issue he highlights, other criticism of his, is the effect of power and the human values. You know, we right for a shelter. Right for a shelter is a human right. And in this situation, our codes of conduct is not addressing about many people are out of homes. You know, they don't have homes, and we are not addressing this. So he also says that this is a problem. And also, even if people have homes, the construction sector about building houses, housing sector, I mean, is extremely problematic. It's very risky. People are suffering in this, and nothing is addressed in codes of conduct. So this is also a very huge problem. And another problem, again, causing a lot of trouble is the presence of employers and employees in architecture offices or companies. So there is an employer tells the employee, who is the architect, to design this, control this, to build this. And he says that, okay, the employer says that, so it's his ethics, so I will do it. I don't want to lose my job. So the picture is not like that. Even if you, so how the codes of conduct is going to address this issue? Because most of the wrong construction on wrong sites are done, are controlled and done and designed by those employees, and they think they are not doing anything unethical. So there is something wrong here, Hüseyin Sadri says, and he is, I believe, very correct. Now, there are also some books on ethics and architecture. I will focus on mainly Thomas Fisher here, and we shall see how broad is the general picture, how architecture and ethics relate to certain subjects in our professional lives. I will start from the left top. I will start and going to the right one by one. I will name them in short. And as you see, I highlighted some of them, which are, I found, more critical and not very much addressed. We should think all these things together. So this shows how complex is architecture, how difficult it is to be ethical in architecture, so how it needs complex thinking. So at the top, as you see, we have the relationship with client, stakeholders, Chamber of Architects. And there is also an issue of commercial approach in which somebody is trying to earn money from what you are designing. And that can easily go to an extreme position. We shall see in a minute. So we are responsible to society. We have to be inclusive. And we have to be on time. And we have to consider the conditions of life. And we have to design useful buildings, and we have to consider right for a shelter for people. We have to consider participation of people, depending on different situations, of course. Cultural differences and also universality. You see, sometimes it goes, depending on situation, you might choose different ones. Natural environment needs protection. Historical environment needs protection. Memory, urban environment needs protection. So these are all issues touching ethics. And then sustainability is a quite new issue in comparison to most others. Collaboration, communication with other professions. Rules of drawing. My friend Said wrote a thesis on rules for drawing, PhD thesis. And sharing data with others and effective control. Globalization, which has other rules. And on the other hand, security, job security in construction sites. Now that is also a very important touching subject. We know that every day some construction workers die. So because of job security problems. In the newspapers I read this, and in the sites of construction, chambers of architects, I follow this. There is a lot of construction workers dying because of the precautions are not taken. So that's also within ethics. Material and system selection, making the economic selection. Disasters, regulation standards, being innovative, being open for innovation are all ethical issues. Use of computer technologies. So it's helping to a lot of things. So let's be open for this. But what are the rules of using computer technologies? Are they changing some rules about ethics or general values about ethics. Creativity. Somebody asks you to design something for them, and if you are just using a previous design done by you, like a stump work, then you are not doing your job. So that's not ethical. The image architecture. If you are seducing people with images, and if you are giving damage to their imagination because you are giving them very easy images, that's another problem. The way you compete is very interesting issue. Advertisements, making advertisements to compete with other companies is a problem. Copyright rules, so we can all remember these issues. These can be even expanded, I believe. Now, I want to say a few things about how ethics takes place in architectural theory and also theories of tectonics. In most of these theories, I must say, they highlight honesty. It's very interesting that they say that you should show the materials you are using, you should use them in a correct way, and the representation shouldn't be done by some additional fake elements. So there are always, you can find these type of expressions in many theories of architecture or tectonics. But it's very interesting that many successful examples of architecture do not follow this principle. For example, if you look at, I won't talk about all of them, but if you look at the top left building of Mies van der Rohe, you can see that the columns are not at the corners, they are at the middle of the building. So it's a very different type of structure. So this is beyond the, there is something challenging the idea of structure here, for example, but it works with the architectural idea, so we appreciate it, of course. In Ronsham Chapel also, certain elements of structure are not very clearly seen. The good examples of architecture tell us that this, it's not very rigid. This issue of honesty is not very rigid. There's a tolerance in it. So all these good architects drove the line between being too tolerant and very rigid in a very interesting architectural way. And we also know that during the postmodern period, the individual became very important and the individual architect became very important, and there were some changes. And also in architectural theories, timeliness of architecture is found ethical. Continuity between past, present time and future, and also with context. It's not written in this slide, but it's very important. I remember Türkan Hanım suddenly is here. So context is also very important to remember about ethics in theories of architecture. So now we are coming to real life problems. We are going to talk about the commercial approach, and this is a gold mine. I think I forgot the place where I took this photograph, but the trees are cut and people are seeking for gold, and people, the society didn't like this. So if you look at the trees as something to cut off and get what you like, then these issues are defined by Martin Heidegger by using the concept of enframing and standing reserve, so that this is a very selfish approach, one-dimensional approach, only considering yourself, how can I earn money, and the rest is totally unimportant, and you see everything within that frame, and you see everything standing in reserve for you to go and take. So that's the very dangerous approach, which is very, very, I'm highlighting this seriously, very, very common. Money, money, money. Now here, there is a housing project. It's a few hundred meters away from the sea, and they are selling this, saying that you are living in nature. But these are luxurious villas. They are presented as luxurious villas, but as you see, they are very close to each other. I think later they added a very little bit of greenery in it, and they say that you are living in nature and this is a luxurious villa. So this is an approach which is something the construction company is trying to get the maximum that they can get from this. So there is something, this goes, of course they have to benefit from what they are doing, but there should be a line. The line should be put in a better position in this case, I think. So here there's another example. There's another example in which we see that Gypsies district in Istanbul, Sulukule, which was at the very important location in the city, and it was destroyed. That they had a project and the authorities supported it to be destroyed to have a more contemporary, more modern and more valuable construction area there. Somehow they wanted to improve the value of the place. And they asked the people, the gypsies living here, to go and live at another place at the skirts of the city far away. And you know, the gypsies' work is usually entertainment, and being at the central city is very important for them. So it's not possible for these people to come from the skirts of the city, traveling in Istanbul 2 hours, and then 2 hours on the way back and pay for transportation. It's not possible for them. So the authorities defended an utilitarianist approach. And they said that we are protecting the rights of majority in Istanbul. So if we destroy this site, Istanbul will look better, and Istanbul will be more valuable. Everybody will be pleased by that. Most of the people in the city will be pleased by that. And there were a lot of criticism against this approach from the deontological point of view, saying that these people cannot recover in long term. You are destroying them. So this is not ethical. It shouldn't be done. And this is a historical site as well. There are other dimensions to it. But as you see here, two ethics theories can contradict. And I believe you choosing the ethics theories for the benefit of something, for the calculative approach that we were talking about it a minute ago, if we are for the commercial approach, if you are choosing an ethics theory to support your commercial approach, that's extremely unethical. So we have to consider all ethics theories together and give our decisions accordingly. And I believe we have to need a kind of montage of approaches. And actually, this is a challenging thing, because if you have the montage of approaches, it will not make a very clear and sharp idea, which turns into a kind of weak thinking, which is not much recognized. But still, that's the ethical way of thinking. So we should go into the risk of being not understood and being weak, but still being ethical. Now this is my last slide. We need. This is also my I think my point about this issue. We should consider the context and the continuously changing. We need a continuously changing approach to ethics. In our modern world, you cannot say that, okay, I support this, this, and this, finished. I will be always behaving according to these 3 values. That won't work. That won't work. You have to check your values, and you have to consider being at a different place. within different cultures, with different people, in different conditions. You have to consider them again, and each time it needs thinking. And the most challenging thing is when you have to decide very quickly. Be aware of that. It's not easy then, because you can make mistakes very easily. And you have to be, I believe, that's what I think, open for change. And finally, I should say that there are different points of view. So some other people might think differently. I try to present you what is in my mind to touch the issue of architecture. So thank you for coming and listening to us. So I will give the word to Said now.
Thank you
So
very much for
I should, I think, stop sharing my... you are there, okay.
Okay. Thank you very much for the lovely presentation, Yonca Hocam. It was amazing. We learned a lot for you. But if we go back to my question, after this presentation, what will your approach?
Oh my God. I forgot that, but that's now dangerous.
The question was that you have three people.
Okay.
I so just quickly remind the question. You have three people that you have to say there. Let's say short that you have to take them to somewhere with your car, and you can only allow to take one person into your car. Okay. And the first person is the old woman who you know that she is going to die. Hopefully she never dies. And then old friend who you saved his life before, and the dream man or woman.
Okay.
So what kind of then this is a kind of ethical dilemma, as you are mentioning, that in every case, in architecture, in construction, in all of them that we have been talking about. But then when we have this dilemma, how do we approach what we do? It's like...
So let's think about Aristotle first, and then Kant, and then John Stuart Mill, and then Rawls, and then we may decide. I don't know. It's not like that, actually. This is more difficult. Okay. So I thought two ways of escape, in a way. I thought that I may say my car is big enough to take all of them. So that's one way of answering it. And actually, if you want a real answer, in real life, I don't take people that I don't know into my car. So there is something like that. So whatever, if the dream man or not, I won't take them into my car, because people are killing each other. So it's so I'm afraid of those type of things. But let's say if you forget that to one side, then I may say, okay, I will take the old woman and my friend, and say the others, wait for me. You know, I'm coming in a minute. Maybe. Okay. Should I choose one? Is that...
No, I think that can be an alternative answer. I mean, there's no choosing and stuff like that. I just wanted to, when we have this ethical dilemma, because the things is it's require a complex thinking. Yes. And that's why this ethic theory is helping us to make this complex thinking and to make decision about it.
I mean, now, if we use the theory, we should get the old woman. Yes.
Yes. Yes. But if we use the theories, that's why this ethic is, I mean, very excited me, because it's give you options. And my answer, I don't know, maybe we should answer the question to the audience as well, but I think we are short with the answer time. So that's why I want to go straight away to my answer, that what this ethic theory can imply in the way that I have the way view. And for me, the answer, because it's the complex thinking, and this theory shows us a different way to path to go. And I think it's there always, when we can consider this ethical theory, my answer could be easily that I will give the car's keys to my old friend, so I save him in somehow, and then let him to take the old lady to the hospital. So in both cases I did. And then there was the issue that I will lose my lover forever, but I stay at the bus stop and save my heart as well. So that's why ethics theories can help us to not only give a one decision like economic in architectural side, economical design wise, but it can help us to protect in every way. And I think this goes very well with the utilitarianism theories, that the act, you do the correct act to generate the greatest happiness or greatest numbers. And that's will be a kind of finalizing solution that I could do. And I would like to add one final note, then I will give them the question, because when addressing something complicated as an ethical dilemma, remember that you should consider the things very carefully before taking any drastic action. Make sure that you are aware of all sides of the story and confine people close to you for their advices and opinions. So that's what we learned from the ethics. And I think that's what I learned from the Yonca as well, to always think and look at the outside of the box. And ethics helping us, and also code of conduct helping us, guide us to look at these situations outside from the box. Thank you very much, Yonca. I think it was very challenging. And sorry that I prepared this question, but this question has been a big problem in my mind. And with your presentation, that I see a kind of link that, you know, ethics allowed us to go to find our path, but it's again depending on your culture, it's depending on the way that you grow up. So it depends, it can be changing and this can be tolerated. Thank you very much. And I would like to ask if there's any question. You can raise your hand or you can write onto the chat box so we can give a word to our friends that who have been with us today. Any question?
Seyit Hoca.
Yes, yes, yes, please. Hürol Hoca is here. He is the dean of our faculty, and maybe she can say a few words as well.
Yeah. For this valuable presentation, on behalf of my faculty, I would like to thank Professor Yonca Hürol. Thank you very much. Really, it was very enlightening presentation. And we are going to put this presentation on the faculty's website, so many people will be able to watch this presentation. And Yonca Hoca, I have a question for you. In your presentation, you have evaluated the ethical theories over the past and present periods. Currently, we all know that there is a different future due to pandemic. We all know that COVID-19 and the pandemic have changed our lifestyles, and this continues to change. And of course, it also affects the use of the buildings and public open spaces and etc. So that means that there is a change in architecture. So I will try to clarify my question. This change seems to continue. Can we make an argument that the ethical rules, theories that you have discussed will still be valid for evaluation in the changing future? Or will we put forward the argument that this will vary?
Yeah. Thank you, Uğur. I think this is a very valuable question, very interesting question. I think if the subject is about ethics, we cannot freeze anything. We cannot say that these are the past theories, these are the present theories, so it's over and we cannot think anything else. So the theories might also be challenged all the time. So we should be open for that. And I think maybe the best answer to this type of an approach will be using the rational intelligence, which is about thinking and also using the emotions together, but thinking deeply, thinking all dimensions of it. Of course, you may also think about the theories, ethics theories, but it might be necessary, and I think it will be necessary to go beyond that. So the rational intelligence, which is the key to philosophy actually, will be the main address which develop these theories in their days, in their times, and now we have to be careful with it again, because it's not as easy as a year ago. Thank you for this question. Thank you.
Thank you, Hocam. I think we have a few more questions. I think we have Türkan Hocam.
Yes, thank you, Yonca. It was very interesting and very comprehensive, speech. You reminded many things. But when we start talking, I just wanted to learn your opinion. Maybe you have the same concern, or you have something different that which will clarify the issue. Yes, I believe that all the ethic codes coming from the history throughout the time is very helpful for the criticisms. For example, criticism of architecture, criticism of anything, criticism of the literature, criticism of the political actions and decision and everything. And it is wonderful because it gives us the different point of view to look at the product in front of us. But when we think about this, yes, we are quite happy and safe, we feel. However, when we deal with the architectural design itself, we have a kind of difficulty. For example, probably you and some other members, they are very familiar to the scientification of the design within the certain time period, starts late 50s and goes until late 70s, let's say. We were in that case quite safe because scientific data and methods everything were highly applicable, and they were playing very important role in architectural design. But afterwards, as the design became quite subjective activity, as the design became a proposal that architects propose their own approach, and it is open to be criticized, and the ethic codes somehow change, I believe. Because, I was looking at the subject quite many years ago, and I was quite happy to see that consistency is another important concept here. What I believe, two things I like to underline, to ask for your somehow answer for them. One thing is, actually, ethic codes, although we have difficult relation with the design now, and we are confused about using all these type of ethic codes, but still ethic codes, what I believe, helping us to develop our design discourse as a designer, as a learner, as a professional architect, whatever. So we develop a discourse that what is our aim, how we see the design situation. But further than this, what I believe, whatever we define, wherever we start, maybe it should be wrong for some others, it should be, well, acceptable for the others. But what I believe, to be ethical in design, I think that to be in consistency with your discourse, whatever solution is. This is a kind of statement, but I don't know, what do you think about this? Thank you.
Thank you, Türkan Hanım. It's a very nice question. You made me think, really. When you were talking, I was thinking there may be several answers to this question, but I may like to take the risk of answering in a dangerous way for myself. So we must think where the art stands, maybe, and where the art of architecture stands. So if we think about this, we may we may think that this touches the inclinations and passions of people. And architecture applies affects on people. So when we see a building, the building behind me, for example, whatever, it makes an effect on us somehow. So, and this is required from architecture. And affect is something touching the passions of people, touching psychological inclinations of people, which actually stops rational thinking. So if that is demanded from architecture, then it's a big question that how these two issues, the rational thinking, the ethical thinking, and also the creation of these affects and the artistic dimension can go together, will be an interesting issue to think. So maybe it can be one first, the other first. Maybe there are also some theories that these can be integrated. So I mean, for example, technology can be integrated into the affects, that's for sure. So since it is a very rational issue, the use of technology and materials, if it can be connected to affects, then it provides a kind of link. But when we think about the ethics, then it is also something beyond technology. Maybe we can maybe we can think that economy is the link to affects at that point, because depending on the economic situation, the demand of aesthetics changes a lot. And not only economy, there are also other dimensions, but there should be always an aesthetic dimension in architecture, whether it is economic or not. So that's all I can say. It's not an easy thing, this.
Yeah. Thank you. Actually, I understood that we have to maybe find our own ethical frame to judge this proposal. What I'm thinking, I think the first place I would give context. So the context is including many dimensions, of course. To be economical, to be technologically correct is one of those. To be more human-centered, again, one of those. But general contextual point of view might help us to somehow to judge the architecture as a proposal which doesn't have any strong scientific support from the strong background, strong ethical background. So we have to find something to rely on. This is what I'm thinking, actually, and we have seen some clues in your presentation. This is, once more, I believe this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Turkan Hocam. More question, Turkan Hocam?
No, my hand is still okay.
Okay. Yes, there is a question from the... Sorry, there is a... Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. There is a few questions on the chat box, but first I would like to give a word to Hume. Hello, Hume. Nice to have you with us. I think your voice is...
Your voice is closed somehow.
You have to open your microphone first. We don't hear you.
I'm trying to find him, but I couldn't. I think we should open his microphone.
I can't do that. I don't know how to do it.
Try to find him. Give us a minute, Hugh, please, because somehow your microphone is muted.
Okay, Doğa, can you help us to open the Mr. Hugh microphone, please, if you are available?
I can. I cannot as well. I cannot open.
Me too.
So somebody should be able to open that.
Doğa, can you help us, please? And
Hocam,
meanwhile, if you...
he should be able to open it, because it's not giving us option to open his microphone.
Okay.
Hugh, could you please click on the microphone at the top of your screen? There should be on the right top, there is a microphone and camera. If you click on
yes,
the
we can hear you now.
Yes.
Yes, now fine.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello, Yonca. İzmir'den selamlar. Thank you very much for this interesting and such important talk. My question really, and it's something that I've been thinking about a lot, Yonca, is how these ideas in ethics transfer to our own teaching in the design studio. Do you believe that architecture is still, which I believe actually, an over-aestheticized discourse, and is a new paradigm required for the way that we teach design in the studios? So it kind of picks up a little bit on Turkan Hoca's comments. I mean, in other words, do we still think of, the kind of modernist idea of the architect in their ivory tower? Or are we thinking more along the lines of the sort of work that people like Alejandro Aravena, for example, is doing, where architecture is being made, but actually aesthetics is not really such an important factor? He's saying, here's half a house, you build the other house on your own, and I don't really care what it looks like. It's up to you to decide because it's your house. So I just wondered whether you had any thoughts of the implications of your comments on how we teach design in design studios.
Thank you, Hugh. Good question. Thank you very much. Now, I think the answer to this is to teach people how to think. But it's not easy. Not everybody can be a philosopher. So that's not very possible. Maybe if thinking is not that much possible, common sense might help a lot to make people aware of what is the common sense. It's not as good as thinking, but the common sense, what everybody generally thinks, if people are made aware of that, I think that can also hold a strong ethical position, I believe. And then, depending on the context, as Türkan Hanım says, for every project, for every building, for every studio, for every site, for every community, there will be a lot of changes. For every condition of economy, there will be a lot of changes. So finding this common sense will not be easy as well. I believe it is very important, as you know, in our profession, to go and see the site, to go and see the people, to communicate with the people, with the client, with everybody. Those are very important things. And now in this COVID situations, we don't have them in our studios. It's very, very, very critical. So, to direct the students to understand what is the common sense, to make them, to put them into dialogue, might help a lot, I believe, in education. To find out, to make them discuss about certain things, might help them to think about what might be the range of, what might give the range of correct or right approach without ignoring the aesthetic dimension as well, because we still need aesthetics because our souls are still weak. So we need it. Somehow we still, one of my teachers was saying that there will be an end of aesthetics when people will be in a better situation. but I don't think that will happen ever.
No, I don't think so. I mean, as far you gave the example in Istanbul, the Sulukele situation, and I mean, I think if that was in the UK, for example, it wouldn't be allowed to happen because the code of professional conduct, certainly that my own professional institute enforces, is a very robust one, and it's one where the RIBA, I guess, as an equivalent to your kind of Chamber of Architects, yes, always manages to get a seat at government tables when they're talking about large policy decisions. And, you know, the situation in Sulukele, most local authorities, it's absolutely essential that, I mean, a development can't happen without a substantial community engagement. So it would be very difficult for that kind of mass demolition that we see in Sulukele to happen there. So I think also a more robust policy framework is required. And of course, that has to also come from publics, you know, it has to come from people who, well, from all the stakeholders, really. So I think in terms of codes of professional conduct and for example, here in Turkey, most of my Turkish architect friends are saying that the chambers are very active, but they're simply not, they don't have the power to change anything. And that seems very unfortunate.
Yes, Hugh, that's very true. Actually, it hasn't started in Cyprus yet, but I'm very scared about it may also happen in Cyprus very soon, this type of attitude. Yes, in Turkey, as far as I follow, Chamber of Architects are warning about everything. There is very limited media for them to raise their voices. They are going to courts. There are hundreds of court cases opened against different buildings, different sites. Sulukule also stopped. It is stopped, but after demolition, and it's not. I think it is now. I'm not sure about this, but I think now it is in the form of a construction site, I believe. I don't know. But there are many court cases open. They win the court cases, but still they cannot stop them. So now put constables of the rule, and there is law now. They are giving decision against you, and all the courts are working. Not maybe all of them, but usually the courts work quite well, at least. That's also one thing, but it's not applied. It's not applied. So the authority, you know, the authority at the top is not recognizing society.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Hugh. Thank you, Yonca Hocam. And I think we have a question from Mukaddes Hoca as well. Mukaddes Hocam, sorry for the late.
No, it's fine, Hocam. First of all, I would like to thank Yonca Hocam and Seyit Hocam for their well-prepared and very valuable presentation about ethics and architecture. Yonca Hocam take the subject from the history and then main focus on architecture. Of course, without any doubt, ethical issues is very important for all the discipline. And I want to follow my dear colleague Hugh discussion. So, hello, Hugh. Hugh mentioned about the teaching the student about ethical issues. Yes, in our education, we are trying our best to teach our student importance of ethical issues and try to giving them courses, or in our courses trying to teach them about the ethical issues in different points of view. But moreover, I'm thinking that it is important to educate the society, make the society about the importance of the ethical issues as well. So my question is that, Yonca Hocam, what do you think about the importance of educating the society about ethical issues?
Thank you, Mukaddes. Of course, it's very important because if you live in a society, let's say, which cannot think, let's say, then it's very bad for children, especially, to grow up in that environment, because then they are left alone with their feelings, and that is quite, let's say, not healthy, not very much human. But how can we educate society about ethics? You cannot give them courses. I think they have to be. They have somehow. I don't know the answer of this question very well. I'm trying to give an answer at the moment, but I think making them aware of the presence of different ideas and thoughts, and making them to let arguments happen, will be very, very important. And in our societies, we have the trouble of not making arguments. In the families, father says something, and that's true. And in the school, teacher says something, and that's true. In politics, the prime minister or head of the government says something, and that is true. And everybody is following their line. They are scared about saying anything against them. And I think that's the best education of ethics, is opening the way for an argumentative society. So the governments, the heads of governments, the authorities should let people to criticize them. And also in the families, the fathers, let your daughter talk, please. So that's something. And in schools, the teachers should support individuality of students. They shouldn't say that I think the correct one, so you should, I don't recognize. They are, of course, less mature. They have to develop their thoughts, but we should support their valuable thoughts somehow, which can develop for the appearance of an individual, is very important, I believe. Authority is the worst danger against ethics, because authority belongs to another paradigm, which has some other ethics. You know, the father knows what is right. That's the ethics there. But the modern ethics is not like that.
Thank you, Hocam.
Thank you very much for the question, Mukaddes Hocam. We have a few more questions, Yonca Hocam, but Jason Wynn, hello Jason, he writes on the message box, could you differentiate the ethics from the values? What do you think about this? How we can differentiate the values and the ethics? Distinction, yes. Any different?
Okay, values are values. I will again try to answer now. Try to think about. I haven't thought that like this before, but I think values are rather more stable things. Everything has its own value, and I recognize them. I think values are immanent to things. That may be the key to understand values. If we think that we are giving value to things, that's not nice. There is some trouble there, or some other authority giving value to things. There is some trouble there. So the value should be immanent to things. For example, nature has immanent value. Humans have immanent value. So it is in it, already there, and you have to see that value. So value is something like that. And once you see that value, and once you open yourself to recognize that value, then I believe it makes very easy to think ethically and make ethical decisions about many situations, I believe. I think Resmiye also has a question, I believe. I can see some other hands as well. Is that
okay?
Hello Yonca hocam.
Resmi hocam.
Hello, Resmiye.
Okay, first of all, I don't want to take too much time. I know that there are too many questions as well and too many comments. I would like to first of all thank for your presence, Yonca hocam, as a person, as a friend who really mean a lot for me, and a role model, really mean a lot for our students as well. From your presentation, I think what we have come up with ethics, it's the honesty. For me as well, honesty means a lot. So ethics is not that kind of theory that we are discussing, but also a practice that we are acting somehow all together, and we are observing and we are experiencing, and at the end we want to be part of it. Sometimes as a kind of fight, maybe sometimes as a kind of let's say support to each other. At that point, I would like to ask, in time, how you evaluate the process of within that capitalist process, this theory and practice relationship that we cannot that much experience or what we are thinking, or we don't always get what we are expecting, in that kind of dilemma that we don't know sometimes how to say, how to act, and at the end what to expect. So this kind of disconnection, what would you like to say by means of ethics as a kind of, let's say, will it be a kind of wishful thinking, or would we achieve all together to think and to say and to share all those experiences together? I would like to hear from you a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Actually, the knowledge is divided into little pieces now, because the accumulation of knowledge became huge. And that's the reason we have to divide it into pieces, and we have to separate the areas of action. So some people deal with more theory, some people deal with more practice, and theory is actually about practice. That's another issue. And I don't believe practice is less valuable than theory, as Aristotle said during ancient Greek days, because at that time, the base of separation of theory from practice was built, and they were saying that theory is more valuable than practice, and because they were thinking that practice is done by slaves. So there is a political dimension behind this issue, certainly. But nowadays the picture is different. Now we have division between professions, and we have to be good in our little cell. And we have to try to be aware of what's going on around it. So I don't think if somebody is, let's say, if somebody works on construction site to control the construction, we cannot ask them to read a lot about theories and know all the theories. Of course, it is better, I think, if they do, but their direction is different, and they cannot ask other people to, let's say, to know what is going on in practice. So we should be aware, of course, but they are separated. Our time is separating them. So we should somehow, I believe, we should recognize this issue, that everybody should be should develop their skills in their own area, and we have to expand we have to realize ourselves, let's say, from thinking about the, again, philosophical point of view. We have to realize ourselves within our selected area in a good way. And then we can be asked about thinking about other issues. I believe, I hope I gave an answer to your question, Resmiye.
Thank you very much, Yonca Hocam.
Thank you very much. And Jason, right back to us. So as a summary is all Yonca Hoca answered. The question was just to remind that, could you differentiate ethics, form and values? We already answered this question, but what he's saying as a result, value is a common sense which drives the ethics. Is that right, Hocam?
Value is the common sense which
drives the ethics. Inherited values drive common sense, which drives the ethics.
Yeah, common sense. Actually, I suggested common sense if there is a lack of thinking.
Okay.
So that saves the problem, and saves the situation. I suggested that to save the situation, but actually, ethics is based on rational intelligence, not common sense. Common sense is if there is no rational intelligence, then common sense, you know, you are falling from somewhere, rational intelligence is there to hold, you cannot hold it, and there's another one to hold, that's the second thing, that's the common sense. If you cannot hold that, then you will fall. I see it something like that.
Thank you, Yonca Hoca. Thank you, Jason. We have another question, which is a big question. There's a 3 question in 1 question, so I will read them one by, if it is okay, Yonca Hoca, because then it will be easier to answer. It's a question from our old students. His name is Ibrahim Cam Özen. And he asked how we can solve the stuck between ethics and the economic benefit of the professionals.
Yes.
And then question was continue focus to teach ethics on basic education. And then how can we government be the real supervisors? There are different 3 questions than each other. So maybe we can ask first, we can answer the first, to teach ethics on basic education. So he means maybe undergraduate. Or
you asked something else actually first. You asked something else,
yes.
And then can you ask one by one, please? Because I get
that
confused.
will be okay. First question is how we can solve the stacks between ethics and economics, benefits of our professionals.
Okay. I may answer that by saying that if there is a need for economy, still there can be an ethics of it. Still, you can, in architecture, if there is a very serious demand of economy, then still it can be architecture. There are very good examples of this. It needs effort, it needs time, it needs work, it needs care, that's all.
Time, care.
Yeah.
So
design.
Yeah. And then the question jump into how to teach ethics on basic education.
Basic education.
I think he refers undergraduate or during the architectural education.
Again, supporting, we have to somehow encourage authorities, all sorts of authorities in the society to not to be authoritarian. So that's one thing. And then during that process, we have to somehow encourage common sense, I believe.
Hocam, it's my question. Hello.
Hello, Ibrahim.
I
mean, on that,
recognize your voice. I cannot see you, but I recognize your voice, Ibrahim.
thank you, Hocam. My question about, okay, we are professional and we know ethics, but in the professional life, I think mostly clients or other people, our colleagues broke the ethic rules, and according to our economical benefits, sometimes with not the good fields, we should draw something or design something with an unethical way. Especially, I am like a young architect now. I should think my economical benefits, and always I stuck between ethics and economic benefits. It is the main question about to teach everyone, like on the primary or secondary school, ethics will be better than to teach just professionals the ethics.
Thank you, Ibrahim. I think knowing ethics might not necessarily cause people behaving ethically. So if the matter is money, as you said, they might ask people, they might ask their employees to behave as they wish. So, and you don't want to lose your job. It's not easy to find a job. And are you going to sacrifice yourself? So this is a very difficult situation. So I will give a funny answer to this. This reminded me what German people did in Nazi Germany when they were forced to massacre Jews. So some people liked it and did it. They enjoyed it because they were psychologically, mentally ill. And some people didn't like it, but since they were ordered by others, they did it because they said it's their responsibility. They give me the order, so I will do it. They didn't even question further. So that was the second group. The third group felt disturbed by this problem, felt the ethical issue behind it. They felt that they have an ethical responsibility there, but it's very limited. So they did their best. Some of them saved some people. Some of them didn't do certain things. So they did their best, but they still protected themselves as well. They didn't put themselves into danger. And there was another group who went underground and fought with these people. So these are the things that this is like a war in a way, because you have to survive. You cannot sacrifice yourself. That's not ethical as well. You cannot give harm to yourself. So you should find, I believe, either the third or the fourth possibilities. The third possibility maybe, I don't know, or the fourth are better. Is it answer to your question, Ibrahim?
Yes, Hocam. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Can we jump to other question, Yonca Hocam?
Yes, please.
Okay. And Hozan was asking one question. The question is, using hidden curriculum in education, others by high stature people, as you mentioned, like fathers or political people, even the instructors, and then the others can follow them and become a conspicuous part. Anyone attitude is a correct way for sharing ethics in community. I think she is asking.
Hocam, can I participate by sound?
Yes, of course you can. That will be better because.
Yes. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Nice to hear and see all of you. Hocam, thank you for your valuable presentation. Actually, it was very interesting topic and very important topic also for us. What was in my mind? Thank you so much. What was in my mind is that we now in education we have hidden curriculum. which is attitude of instructors, and for the high statue like father or like political people or like who is in the high statue, let's say. If we are doing like a hidden curriculum using the ethics by us as a self, and later on let others to repeat what we are doing as a attitude and make a conscious attitude for others in society, do you think is a correct way, or it is a healthy way for sharing ethics in society? It depends. Actually, this question comes from Muqaddas Hoja's question that was asking about society, how we can teach society. Thank you so much for your presentation again, Hoja.
Thank you very much, Ozan, for your nice question. I think it is a valid issue of teaching ethics, being a role model of some figures in education. It is valid if these figures will be open for the development of individuals amongst their students. They should keep on being a role model, but if some students depart from that into other directions, they should be able to respect individuality of those students, I believe. That's what I think. I don't know, Yani, but I think
so much,
it's the democratic approach, actually.
Yes, very nice answer, Hocam. Thank you so much for answering.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hozan. And we have question from Hassan. Hassan, would you like to ask your question yourself, or should I read it for you? Because you have also two questions, such a presentation. What is your approach to making the right elevation about the human phenomenon? The first question is this, Hocam, so maybe we could answer them by one, but I repeat the question. What is your approach to make... Sorry?
I understood the question. Okay. The second question, I think, is more clear. He says, do you think it is possible for an evaluator to make the right evaluation through her values? Yeah, and that's a good question, actually, because we are looking at people. That's the main issue of ethics, actually. So in ethics, consciousness is needed to know the object of thinking. So the other person, it becomes the object. And then it is also necessary to be aware of yourself, so that you should also turn and look at yourself like an object as well. And then you can start thinking about the other, but still it needs self-criticism as well. Judgments will be troublesome, I believe. So it needs, consciousness is not sufficient in ethics. You have to have self-awareness. You have to reflect to yourself. Then you can evaluate. Then you can think about, let's not say evaluate, think about the others. Is that fine, Hassan? Can you hear us? I don't know.
If he's here.
Thank you very much, Hocam. It's fine. Thank you very much, Hocam.
Thank you, Hassan.
Perfect. Any hand? We have a few comments here. I would like to share them with you, Hocam. Jason Wynn again make a really interesting suggestion for a movie, which is the invention of the lying. So maybe it will be invention of lying. So it will. He put the links here as well. So it will be nice. Sorry.
That's very nice. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I interrupted you. Sorry.
And then he make this very deep note, very funny film that makes you think about truth. So he's maybe the film question is questioning all about the truth, which is kind of. And then we have Lotto, thank you. Roja has to left, but she's saying thank you. And Kamyar was right to us as well. And he's saying thank you for the presentation and saying sending all his love.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kamyar.
Yes, anything else? Any question, my friend? If not, Mr. Hu, you seems that you would like to ask something. Am I right? Okay. So I will. Okay, Mukaddes Hoca, thank you very much again for you, especially for you, Doğa, and Faculty of Architecture. And Gita Hoca just write us saying thank you for the lovely presentation. Asoja as well. And Asoja did a real one. Another suggestion, The Good Place. One movie which is called A Good Places, and it is questioning the ethical. It's questioning the ethic itself. Sorry, I just jumped in because they sent the message late. So anyway, we were on. Thank you for the faculty. Thank you especially for Uğur Hoca, Mukaddes Hoca, Afet Hoca, and Doğa, all of them for their great effort. And thank you again to Yonca Hoca. It was very nice and very interesting presentation. And we are looking forward to have this second or the third round of it.
That would be nice. Thank you very much, Said. I would like to thank to the members of Faculty of Architecture and also all attendees. I'm very pleased to be together with you. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Yonca Hoca. It was great, pleasant to be with you, with other friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Hocam.
Thank you.
Thank you, Behnaz.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again, too.
All of
See
you.
you. Yeah,
Thank
nice
you.
to see you. Best.
For you. Same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gita Hoca. Thank you, Özlem Hoca.
Thank you, Hocam. Very nice presentation.
Thank you very much.
Cemal Hocam, thank you. Nice to have you with us.
I'm following you.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Cemal Bey.
Thank you, Hocam. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mukaddes Hocam, big thank you to you.
Thank you very much, Mukaddes.
Great thanks from me and from the faculty, from the Dean's office as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I think we should somehow, I think Doğa will close the session.
Okay.